GRA Services is really proud to introduce our latest product that is specific to the electric utility industry, and it really ties into what we have done over the life of our company, which is develop products that preserve and extend the life of utility assets. Our motto, which is the preservation of today's assets for tomorrow, is right in line with what our latest product is. It's called FS-2000. It is a fire stop product that is designed to prevent wood utility poles from catching fire when you have grass or brush in very close proximity and a fire starts and moves through an area, and therefore it obviously jeopardizes the integrity of the pole, even to the point of destruction. So let's take a look at the demo that we've set up here. Here are 3 poles. Obviously this is uncoated. This is a coated pole, and what we're going to do is we're going to build a small pile of brush around each pole, ignite it. This product is designed to follow the guidelines of ASTM E1623, which specifies the conditions that are met when a fire in close proximity to an object can withstand a high intensity flame for an extended period of time. That temperature must exceed 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and it must have an extended exposure for 20 to 25 minutes. So in this test, we will build a fire around each of these poles and then obviously set them on fire, and we will document the effectiveness of this coating to prevent these poles from catching on fire. Come down a little closer, I'll show you this. Now this pole has been coated, and this is a water-based product that goes on in about 2 applications. You need 120 mils of thickness, which is about 1/8 of an inch, to protect the pole from burning up. So a single pass, and you usually do this with a standard paint roller, a single pass will give you about 60 mils. And so a double coating will give you your 120 mils of protection. Now this pole was coated yesterday, so it's had time to dry, so that we'll be able to effectively do our test. And this product is designed primarily for poles that are standing in the field. Now we do have a variant that's coming out that is going to be able to allow utility companies to do all this coating in the pole yard. It will be a 2-component sprayed on product. Applications are running, a number of poles treated per day are running at about 150 to 200 poles a day. So economy of scale is fantastic. This took me about an hour to coat. So you can see that, you know, a crew assigned to a number or multiple poles would have to, you know, allocate however many poles they could do in a day. There is a 2-step process that you need to do to prep the pole. First step is you must have a source of compressed air, and then you will blow off the pole, blow all the dirt and loose material and debris that's on the surface. That's step 1. Step 2 is the initial or primary coat and secondary coat. Now in the field, as a fast-moving grass fire or brush fire passes through an area, the intensity of the flame reaches to about 6 feet. These poles are 9.5 feet tall. I have coated that one to the top, but honestly in the field I would think that a coating to about 8 feet is probably sufficient. The temperature at the top of the flame will probably not be high enough to actually ignite the pole. But in this area, the temperature is going to be pretty intense. And again, in order to pass the ASTM test, it has to exceed 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 20 to 25 minutes. Once we go through these preliminary steps, basically to show you how to prep the pole, how to put your first and second coat on, we'll move back to the poles that have been established and are ready for the burn test. Once we do that, we can document it and show how effective this coating is. Let's move into the operational phase of this. I mean, honestly, it's really very simple. You just blow off the dust and debris from the pole, and then with a paint roller and an open bucket, you just start applying the product. We'll do that first. Phase 2 is quite simple. I like to use this spill guard here on a 5-gallon pail, like that. Okay, and then just dip. Now, I have found that putting these initial coats on, rolling it horizontally, is a lot better than vertically at first. There's one thing that you really do have to pay attention to. See all these cracks and checks? You want to make sure that you get product in there, because as the flame is basically trying to move into the interior of the pole, you don't want this to be a channel for heat to get in and set the inside of the pole on fire. As I said previously, one coat will get you about 60 mils. And you need 120 mils, or 1/8 of an inch, to be effective, so that it will withstand the rigors of the ASTM E1623 protocol. Theoretical application for this is that with the 60 mil application, you get about 19 square feet of coverage per gallon. That's the completion of step 1 and 2, which was to blow off the surface of the pole with compressed air. Put your first coat on, which is about 1/16 of an inch, and wait about an hour and get it so that it is in a very strong, tacky consistency. And then come back, apply your second coat, paying attention now to more of the checks. And I'll show you a little technique here. What I do is you get some product on your brush, and then just push it in like that, and it fills in very nicely, like that. The second coat is really about protecting the checks, really. Now I will tell you something. I have used a wide standard paintbrush, and you can go right down the checks and it fills them really very quickly. And you could just smooth it over with the roller. But in essence, that's it. The protection from the coating will take effect in about 36 hours as it cures. So you have, 1.5 to 2 days after the coating has been applied where you get your full protection for the pole. Now again, we're going to go ahead and set up these other 2 poles. I'll come back and put the second coat on this later, but we're going to set up the scenario for the simulated brush fire around the base of the pole and have at it and show you how she does. Well, we've gone through the introduction for the product, the FS-2000, Firestop 2000, and what we covered was, number 1, application, preparation for the pole first, then application. As you can see, we have our 2 test specimens ready to go. There are 2 things that are critical in this test. Number 1, time of flame. The flame has to be around the subject poles for at least 25 minutes. And we have to have a temperature which will exceed 1,000 degrees. Now we have an infrared heat sensor, and we're going to use our stopwatch basically to record the time. So we also have precautions here. We are on an approved burn day in this municipality, so that's good. We got plenty of water, and we've got fire extinguishers located next to the 2 subject poles, so we're in good shape there. So we're ready to go. I'm just gonna go ahead and light these off. We're gonna hit the stopwatch, and we're gonna begin this test. Okay, as soon as I light this, I'm gonna hit the start button on the stopwatch, and this test will run for at least 25 minutes. Okay, we have ignition there. I'm going to start the watch. Right now we're at 739 degrees, and you can see the pole is starting to catch fire there. We're at 802 degrees on this pole. Well, as you can see, evidence shows that within 1 minute and 50 seconds, we already have ignition on this untreated pole. Okay, We have a reading of 1112 degrees. 1200 degrees there. Well, I don't know if you can see this, but as you can see, we're 4 minutes into the test, and the untreated pole is definitely on fire. And let's go back and take an observation of the treated pole. Obviously, I see flames all around the base, but I don't see ignition on the surface like we do with the untreated pole. But remember, this is a long test. This has to go 25 minutes. And we've got plenty of kindling in the base of these poles, and we can add more if we see that the kindling is burning down. But we want to keep this flame going at this intensity for as long as we can. I'm going to take another reading here right at the base. We got 1340 degrees Fahrenheit. And this one's over 1500. Presumably because of the heat being put off by the pole burning. We are now just 6 minutes into the test. Okay, we've just done another reading at the base of this pole, 1607 degrees. About 1590, 1600 degrees, right in the core there. It's definitely charred at the bottom, but it's not on fire, that's for sure. Just depends on what the internal temperature of the pole gets, but this one is definitely burning. We've had a very interesting test, and we've stoked the fire a few times to keep it going, adding more kindling, basically monitoring the conditions of the pole at the base. We have passed the 25-minute mark for the qualification for the ASTM, and just to make sure, we're going to add another 4 minutes or 5 minutes to this. We're going to go to 30 minutes. We have 3 minutes to go. Then we're going to extinguish the fires, and we're going to remove the debris around the base and get some good close-ups of what happened to the poles. Well, we've had ignition on the surface of the pole up to about 7 feet. These poles are 9.5 feet tall, So that's probably the 7 foot, 6.5 foot level. But definitely at the base, which would be the representation of ground line. I think we have significant internal burning on this pole. If this pole wasn't supported, if this was in the ground and it wasn't supported by these guide wires, it probably would have failed, but we're gonna find out in just a few minutes. We're at 28 minutes right now. On this pole, we have a bubbling, it looks like, of the surface coating, but it looks like it's preventing some deep internal charring. So I think we're in good shape. We've got a little ignition on the grass here. We've got 1 minute and 30 seconds to go. I'm gonna put that fire out on the grass. Okay, we're down to 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. 30 minutes. So we're going to stop the test. We've more than passed the qualification time for the ASTM. Well, been a very interesting test. Again, the parameters for the test were 25 minutes. We took it to 30. I want to bring your attention to a couple of things on the treated pole. First of all, see this bubbling that comes? That's a design factor basically to deflect the heat, which it has done very well. You can see the top layer is good, the bottom layer is completely intact. This reinforces the issue of two coatings. Remember, 120 mils, about 1/8 of an inch, and the first coat will be about 1/16, then you put on a second coat. But to get behind the reason why, in the uniqueness of this formulation, now you're seeing why. Okay? Now, the intensity of the flame. We measured 1,610 degrees Fahrenheit. It was there for probably 10 to 12 minutes of the 30 minutes. Let me take you down to what we would consider ground line. Ground line would be basically the equivalent of here. I want you to see this, but you can see how the product, the FS-2000, has deflected the heat and basically left the structure of the pole intact. This pole being subjected to that type of fire would not fail. There was no internal flame. The problem that you have with extensive heat over an extended period of time is the internalization of the heat. Now we went to significant lengths, remember, to seal these checks. That's the important thing. Don't let the heat migrate past the coating into the interior of the pole. Very important. Let's take a look at the untreated pole. Okay, the untreated pole. A few minor observations. Take a look at the pole over there. There's no residual smoking or internal charring. Now we doused both of these poles significantly, but the heat underneath this bark basically is still producing an ember or something that could reflame at some time in the future, that pole is not going to catch back on fire at some later time. Again, coming down here to what would be the simulated ground line area. Okay, you see significant damage where the pole was basically on fire, and it would have continued to burn. The base of this pole would have just burned out, and this pole would have fallen in place. So, treating the poles in the field is a significant advantage, especially in known or prone fire areas. The amount of liability and property damage that could be avoided by having a pole stand in place is almost uncalculable. But I want to give you a heads up on what is even more cost effective. Now remember on that other demo pole how we applied the product horizontally and vertically. There is a variant to this product that goes through a 2-component high pressure application gun. Were these poles prepared in the pole yard, average production rate is about 150 to 200 poles a day. The penetration with a high pressure spray application into these cracks is phenomenal. You don't have to worry about making sure that you're gooping it into the checks and cracks. So from a cost-effective application in the pole yard, by far the best method. However, as we all know, there are millions and millions and millions of poles already standing in the field that are subject to the liability of fire. This is a great solution to that problem. FireStop 2000, great product, coming into the market at a timely, in a very timely manner. Highly recommended, obviously, and we hope you see the value of it. Thank you very much. We really enjoyed bringing this test to you.